Welcome to Whitemarsh Station. This successful infill project, consisting of 23 single-family, zero-lot line homes along Butler Pike in Montgomery County, received a 2021 Montgomery Award for Contemporary Design Concept, Collaborative Planning, and Innovative Stormwater Management.
Coming out of a difficult time in 2008, 9, 10, 11, we were working on a project in Bluebell that had a zero lot line concept. And it was successful. And we realized that there was a market for an alternative to townhouses. It's not attached, not large lots, associated maintenance. My dad, who probably has the best nose for dirt of anybody I know, drove down the street and came to the office and he said, I think we can do something over there on Butler Pike. And I looked at him and I said, where? And he pointed to the spot and we pulled up the computer and I kind of looked at him and said, really? So the inspiration was him saying, we can do it. I know we can do it. And we got together and put a plan together with Rick Stoneback from Shoemaker and came in to see Charlie. And the idea was, it's an alternative to townhouses. This would have been probably a very likely candidate for a townhouse site with the turnpike in the rear and Butler Pike out front and some semi-industrial properties surrounding. It wasn't a typical single-family location.
Sal brought it to us and said, I want to build a townhouse alternative, which is a zero lot line project. What we found out was that his townhouse alternative, which is built here on 4.5 acres, has a density of around 6 units per acre, which is close to a townhouse density. But when you look at the streetscape and you look at the people that are living in the homes, they're actually living in a house that's about the same size of a townhome, but it has a rear yard, it has its own deck, and the streetscape is much improved because it's almost impossible to plant street trees and do a good landscaping of the streetscape when you build townhomes. And this allows us to have cars parked in front with a village look, together with porches and landscaping that makes the project much more attractive. One of the issues that arose, this piece that was going to be used for intense residential use backs up to an industrial use. So we needed to buffer it. And Sal was able to get together with the owner of the industrial property who had leased it for a dog kennel and get some of the landscape features put on the neighboring property so that it provided more rear yard and more buffering for both parties.
Here at Whitemarsh Station, we were inspired by many things. Before we went to pencil and paper and laid it out on the drawing board, this site had a lot of challenges. It has a very small footprint. And, when you go back and you look at homes and communities that were done years ago, hundreds of years ago, we were in communities that were very dense. And with new projects like this, we really took it as an opportunity to use that as a basis to design this. So we would wind up with an architecture that had a historic precedence, but it also had a very unique community type feel that's indigenous to the area.
Yeah, especially basically its own little village that everybody's a part of.
I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to work with the steering committee for Montco 2040. And one of the big recommendations that came out of that concept was smaller lots in specific areas of the county. This really seemed to fit that design criteria.
This also really corresponds well with what we've done in our comprehensive plan, which was being updated around the time this project was being built. One of the housing goals is to have more diversity and different types of housing And this is the first zero lot line development we've had in the township. And I hope with the amendment that was done to the AD district that perhaps there may be opportunities for others. And that's one of the things that when we were looking at that amendment, we made sure that it wasn't just geared to this site, that it could be used elsewhere. We haven't seen it used elsewhere yet, but we're hoping it might be.
Due to the shallow nature of the basin and the minimal outfall requirements of this site, we chose a very large footprint detention basin, but it's really a giant rain garden. The bottom is planted with 2 feet of amended soil, which is amended with organic compost, sand, and native topsoil blended to provide nutrients and hold moisture for the plantings.
And that's pretty much what set the stage for my planning design, was given the depth of soil and the moisture conditions, that's pretty much what drove the plant palette. And you know, the basin is mostly native and provides habitat for, you know, birds and wildlife and pollinators. So
it was exceptionally challenging in this case, however. It was driven by off-site runoff from the Pennsylvania Turnpike behind us that flows through our site, and it leaves our site across Butler Pike, which has a Texas Eastern gas line running through it. So we had very limited elevations and design constraints to make this very shallow surface basin meet the general stormwater requirements. Therefore, we had to go outside the box to come up with a solution that worked, that checked all the boxes, and looked good in the meantime.
And with that, I guess, being that this amenity is the front door of this project, we wanted it to not look like every other basin that we see in developments today. You know, historically, basins would be sort of a steeper mown pit, and turf lawn does not do much for our environment. So we wanted this to be a showcase of the community. In the beginning, we worked with the Township arborist and Morris Arboretum to sort of find out what and how many types of vegetation we needed to put on this site. And it became clear that we wanted this basin to be a naturalized basin, and we were able to do that because we don't have the steep slopes. The water has more room to infiltrate. And if you can see behind me, there's some different levels of elevation. Some of the higher elevations we could get shade trees, and that will eventually be canopy replacement. And on the ground level, we have a variety of shrubs and perennials that provides habitat, and it's just great to look at.
I think one of the other things that was beneficial was just timing. It was a time in the township where we were seeing a lot of townhouse developments, and we weren't pleased with all the townhouse developments, and this was a logical alternative and a good infill site. And when Sal came in, we started talking about how do we implement this. We kind of mutually decided that the AD, the attached dwelling district, would be the logical place. That's where townhouses are allowed, but we didn't allow zero lot lines. So Sal and his group took a shot at an amendment. We then sat down with him as staff, made a few changes. It went to the Planning Commission, they made a few more changes, and it was just a very collaborative process. There was no pushback. The Planning Commission was in favor of it. We had no resident opposition, and the board adopted it pretty quickly. And that was, I think, one of the best processes, and one of the reasons that influenced me to nominate this was not just the end product and the fact that it's a good use for an infill site. It was a process that you don't often see. It was collaborative from day one, and we can't always say that.
We were able to put our heads together and work together and collaborate to get to a mutually successful goal and a mutually successful project, something that would be reusable or replicable in the township. So that was a great end result of the project.
Whitemarsh Station, an excellent example of the value of vision and the establishment of public-private partnerships, can serve as an exceptional model for successful stormwater management and an innovative alternative to traditional townhouse developments.